Hello, we're live. We're live. I'm going to give people a few minutes here to join us, get myself situated. Happy Friday. I missed a Friday happy hour yesterday, so I'm going to have a drink with everyone after the end of the day. So cheers to Baby Friday, and Saturday. Cheers to the weekend. And a well-deserved adult beverage after a week. And what a week it was. We're going to do a recap of what we've been experiencing this week and look at the next 2 weeks. This is the July 2020 Starcast. And in the Starcast, I like to give an overview of the monthly energies we're all dealing with. Gonna have a little candle lit and some incense here. Create the mood. Welcome to Starcast July 2020. We'll be starting here soon. I'm just going to get situated a little bit. Possibly move around this camera. It's a lot of view of the drapes. Okay. I have whiteboards here, but I don't think I'm going to bring them on camera. Okay, hello. People are finding us. That's great. I'm going to help another viewer find us real quick, and then we'll get started. Thank you for joining us. If there's any problem with the audio, please let me know in the live chat. Okay. So we're live on YouTube. I'm Holly. I'm founder of What the Stars Say. What the Stars Say presents a view into the cosmic influence into our daily lives. In this Starcast episode, I'll be looking at the energies we're dealing with for July 2020. It is later in the month, but I feel like this is right on time. I'm starting later tonight than I wanted to, but I feel like I'm starting right on time. And that's going to be one of the things that we talk about here. Okay. Just a moment, please. Yes, I'm putting things out in a plant. It's taking a hit for me. It was lovely, but it's going to smell strong and it's going to, get into my nose as I'm doing this. I can tell. Okay, so we're here. Loud and clear. Good deal. Okay. It is Saturday, July 18th, 2020, and the light is winning. I'm Holly, founder of What the Stars Say Astrology, and right now I'm going to present the July Starcast and cover where we're at and where we're going. Each month I find it important in the Starcast presentation to just back up a little bit because 2020 is such a continuing story, so we have to really look at where we've been, where we're at now, where we're going, and that's how I hope to present this information to you tonight. What the Stars Say focuses on exploring the cosmic influences in our lives. You can find us on YouTube, where we're live now, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at whatthestarssay.com. A lot of times you could subscribe to the blog. You only get emails whenever new content is published. But it's great to follow on all forums because here we are live on YouTube. There have been situations where we're live on Facebook in conjunction with other events. And also on Instagram is where we provide some insight into the day. And we get more day specific rather than the long week or the month for that day. So it's always good just to check us out on all the platforms. Really easy to sign up for the blog too. And at this time, there's no other emails rather than just the content. So you don't have to worry about adding to your inbox on there. So I wanted to start with what the stars say, literally, like, let's get into it. But as I was mentioning, I think it's important that we look back a little bit and also where we're at. So you probably heard that we were, retrograde season and so forth. We had 6 planets in retrograde at one time, but please understand that, isn't Mercury out of retrograde? Or, Venus is out of retrograde. Our retrograde season, because of all of the planets in retrograde at this time, it really goes through September. So it goes into like early September. So it's really a retrograde summer. So keep that in mind if there's a constant theme that you're dealing with. Um, I wanted to cover the Jupiter and Pluto conjunction that we had on June 30th and how that laid out. But that is a good deep dive. And that is really about the collective and the geopolitical, the political as personal. So I'm going to do a different format for that and just really stay on that topic because what this really shows is astrology in action. And it also gives us hints of what we're going to be dealing with both collectively and personally in November of this year. So I want to do that on this side because I don't want it to dominate July. We're still dealing with that influence right now. That is still unfolding. And it's really unfolding just as the astrological story of 2020 promised. There wasn't anything too shocking there. If you didn't catch that and the things I said about what was happening with this later, it might be more of what just happened. But you will notice since June 30th to now, things have really heated up a lot and these issues have come back and there's more to it there. So that will be a separate segment all on its own, but that is something that we're dealing with. And what this retrograde season, this retrograde summer has really challenged us all with is to review the past while we're concurrently creating a new future, and that is hard. So I hope that I thank you for being here tonight, and I appreciate your curiosity and your commitment to personal self development. This is very much about you, although this is what they call a very general reading. I'm not looking at the collective political part as much as like what you might have going in your life, your home, and your heart right now. So we're going to get into that, but I want to begin with the first message that I have for you tonight, and that is that if it's hard right now, that's because it's supposed to be. So take comfort in that in a very weird way. I'm going to go through quickly some of the things that we're dealing, where we're at, where we've been, where we're at right now. It's so difficult. So I want you to give yourself some passes on a lot of things as we go through this list. And I talk about what, is happening with the celestials out there and how it's influenced our daily life so we can understand and detach and not take it so personal or be so self-critical and hard on ourselves. There's a lot right now. So we have this retrograde season. We had this Jupiter and Pluto conjunction, which will hit 3 different times throughout the year. And as I was saying, we had Mercury and Venus in retrograde at the same time. So what's really hard about the Venus retrograde is you have the planet of love, and she's in this retrograde motion, and she's also invisible. And sorry, she's also invisible. So when Venus is invisible, it's like we don't feel the love. Like even if nothing changed in our romantic relationships and our other partnerships that we have, our interpersonal relationships, there's just something about when Venus becomes invisible that it feels like the love walked out of the room. We just don't feel his love. We don't love ourselves as much. So that was something we've been going through. Now that Venus is visible, it's easier to feel self-love, but we're going through Cancer season at the same time, and Cancer season is like love yourself, nurture yourself, and that would be great if you had all day and you had all the resources, but you have the restriction, and restriction is such a prevalent theme that we have because Saturn is restricting us. So we have Saturn and Cancer energy together, and it's it's not just restriction in our life and our movement and everything. It's restriction on the people of the world. This is part of the whole lockdown thing that's happening. The whole top-down authority, the whole questioning of things. I mean, that's coming together. So we have that happening. And with Jupiter and Capricorn energy together, it's like expanding requires so much more endurance at this time. To build something just requires that much more effort. It's more difficult in that way. So understand when you're trying to build something up, it might not be because it's not meant to be. It might be because we have to put in so much more effort at this time to counteract the planetary placements that we have between Jupiter and Saturn and Capricorn. Okay. We're going to get back to building with Capricorn and Saturn energy later on. But when I'm going over where we've been, we didn't really have that going for us. So with Neptune and Pisces, I could talk about this all day long, and I have so much because this is us under a glamour spell. This is us confronting how we've deceived others, how others have deceived us, how we've deceived ourselves, who out there that we look up to has us deceived, is giving us false information, has this under this glamour spell. It's a really difficult time because you don't know who to trust. And you really can't trust anyone at this time. That is a difficult thing to deal with as you're being asked to nurture and go with the compassion and the love and all that. You can't trust anyone. So as we question who is an authority, we're questioning, why are you authority? What makes you an authority? Are you my authority? There's so much conflicting energy about that as we go through 2020 because it's a confrontation. It's a harsh examination that people are going through. So with the Mercury retrograde, we also had Mars in Aries, and I want to be clear here. Mercury left its retrograde motion July 12th. But Mercury doesn't get out of its shadow phase until July 26th. So many people are like, well, what's going on? Isn't Mercury out of retrograde? It's out of retrograde, but it's not, completely direct. We're not in the clear yet. So this energy is still going with us throughout July. If you want me to sum up July in such a big way, until we get to the end, and this is why I could be late in this message and still be on time, because the beginning of July, we were all just dealing with some old bullshit. That's what the retrograde season is kind of about. It was a continuation of the things that we were dealing with in July and the things that we were dealing with April, So that is hard because we're all thinking ahead, or we're trying to think ahead. And then we have the nodes trying to put us on our true path and realign with our path and reimagine things, all those that retrograde season, but there's this restriction. So with the Mercury retrograde, whose influence I think we're still under right now, and Mars and Aries, it translated with Mercury rules Gemini, which is, transportation, two wheels. It's like everybody was in a hurry, yet they had no clue where they were going. That energy is lessened a bit, but that energy is still with us through the end of July, okay? So we're all seeking clarity. Mercury in retrograde is cloudy communication, miscommunication. And then, just a second here. With the Mars and Aries, when I first presented that, one of the analogies I gave is with the Mars in Aries and the heavily influence of Saturn and all the planets in Capricorn, it's like the baby versus the boss, okay? So that is something like a theme that we have at this time, is that confrontation, really. And the baby doesn't, nobody ignores the baby there. Nobody puts baby in a corner, right? So with the Mars and Aries thing, it's just, we have to confront both righteous and self-righteous anger and figure out the difference. Because self-righteous anger isn't doing you or others a favor, but righteous anger is highly effective at this time, and it can motivate you and help you push back and have that endurance you need to create new things. With Mercury and Jupiter, we're also, here we are still in that retrograde cycle, right? And we're going back and we're visiting an old issue. There's so many parents at this time that are trying to figure out the fall school year, in person versus digital versus homeschool. What are they going to do? And on the higher education level, in the long term, the outlook is it's just worse in the higher education level. But it's the same thing that with colleges going digital, and how is that going to work? And do you have to pay the same if you're not even there, and so forth? There's all these Mercury communication conversations related to Jupiter, which is, basically education itself. So that is something that we're challenged with right now. So many families are struggling with this issue. I was thinking about this issue, and the other thing I thought that is a major 2020 theme that's playing out right at this time is how we have this energy going from this Capricorn energy, and which represents really work, and then this Cancer energy, this Cancer season, which is home, and this Mercury retrograde adds to that mix. And there's so many people, you don't really know what they're going through maybe with work, but there's things that they're going through at home. And at home, the question is, how do you balance your home, your nurturing, your parenting with the work situation? If you become your child's full-time teacher, how do you work? So work, home, those are the things that we're re-examining now and having to really focus on during this time. And it's not easy. So many people feel like a catch-22 situation. So it's not surprising that we're dealing with these challenges because that's what the stars are saying right now. But knowing that this is the collective challenges we're given at this time, hopefully will help you detach, and know that you're not alone in this. We're all struggling with it. The other thing about the Cancer season is Cancer season itself is a bit like a crab walk, and think about Cancer with the water energy. So during Cancer season, where we're coming from, where we're still at for a while, we have a little bit longer there. Throughout this, we've been asked to look at that water energy, that true water energy of Cancer, and just think of, really calm waters, but then question like what's beneath the surface of the calm water, and that's what we're having to look at. It's going really deep with us. So the whole Cancer eclipse, you might remember June 5th, then was it like maybe the 12th? I'm going to get that off. And then around July 5th, it was eclipse season. There was like 3 in a row. Okay. So we had eclipse season, we had retrograde season, and the eclipse season was about nurturing yourself, loving yourself. And that was so hard because, the planet of love was invisible for a time. But it's also about, it's like when we went into that Cancer season and we had the whole eclipse season, really, so many of us are feeling exhausted right now and we're needing far more sleep. And it's really, retrograde season is about rest and rejuvenation. But what a challenge that is when there's a shit show going on in the world outside, that you kind of want to keep an eye on. You know what I mean? And what a challenge that is to rest and rejuvenate when the future just seems more unwritten than ever. So these are some things that we were dealing with and where we're coming from. It was really hard. And then we got put through. You still have to deal with that. Go back and clean up your mess. Go back and clean up your room, So this is where we're at, where we've been, and really where we're coming through. The other thing is just this past week, here we are in Cancer season, and Cancer is the nurturer, the mother, and so forth. And we, in the middle of this Cancer season, this eclipse, really, and Neptune going retrograde. We had the Sun square Pluto this week, and this really, one of the things that we're dealing with now in this eclipse season, and it's so much of the energy right now is challenging us to stand up for the children. And when my hope for the Sun square Pluto was that light would be shined on the darkness, it would come to light. And sure enough, that's when the Wayfair story really exploded. And people for the first time were awakening to the truth that there are children that are being trafficked, abused. It's something, it's one of those wounds that is coming to light that we have to confront. And we're going to go in more to that. But there's so much about this energy right now. And the parents are thinking about the schools, the teachers are thinking about the students and what's going to happen with the school year and everything like that. But there's other hard truths with children that we're being looked at this time. You'll see that is one of the big stories and the challenges of this year is if we will stand up for children, if we will think about the voiceless in our society. And sure enough, light was shined on that darkness. We also had the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell, G Max, and she was denied bail, which is a huge relief to all of the women who were victimized by Jeffrey Epstein as minors, as children, and trafficked. So that's an interesting way that that's playing out. We're being given a lot of hard truths to confront at this time, a lot of hard truths. And we also have with the Neptune and Pisces, there's a lot of deception going on, a lot of false information, false photos, false news. That's what I'm saying. Trust no one. So there's a lot of things that are happening at this time. The other thing with the Mars and Aries, I want to point out is, that's a lot of that is youth rebellion. That energy will go through the summer. But when you add to it the Saturn and Pluto aspects that are happening, that Jupiter and Pluto conjunction, and that Sun square with Pluto, when I look at that whole thing happening, all those different things intertwining off each other, I wanted to point out here that this is a lot of that cancel culture. And one of the repeats we have in astrology, we look at, okay, when these celestial bodies meet, when these things occurred, what happened in the past when those same occurrences took place, right? That's where this astrology is actually incredibly data driven. So one of the things that we've looked at with the energies of 2020, there's lots of things going around the internet. Oh, and this time, last time this happened, and this happened. But one of them that I've heard different interpretations of, I've considered myself, um, but I didn't really say anything because I wanted to figure out how it played out. By luck, by chance, by serendipity, as I was contemplating, what does it mean when 2020 has witch trial vibes? Okay, what does that mean? These are the same energies that took place during the Salem witch trial. How does that translate to now in modern times? Okay, because life was a lot different then. Viewpoints were a lot different. The whole setup was a lot different. So how does witch trial vibes translate in 2020? And some different thoughts were presented, things came out, nothing stood right in my gut. And I just thought, how is that? Like, I want to figure that out eventually. But I went about my life. As luck had it, I sat down to relax and just randomly turned on whatever live TV was on, which is rare. And it was a Smithsonian episode about the top experts who had researched the Salem witch trials, and they were going to find out where all those people were executed at. They wanted to find that exact tree, that exact spot, and everything. So as it goes into it, I'm reminded a little bit about the witch trials versus the things that you've heard just years ago in a class, or just friends and everything like that might be into it. And this is the latest information about it. So what happened in the Salem witch trial, according to the Smithsonian's choice of experts, is that these children that made these statements, that made these accusations, they were suffering from what we would call in modern day PTSD. They had actually been through the Indian War, so they had seen the horrors and the brutality of war. And if you can imagine what it was like to be a Puritan adolescent female at that time, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for expression. So the body always finds a way. The experts believe that the girls were exhibiting kind of like behaviors coming out through their PTSD. It was coming out of their body, it's charged, and they have these hormones, and they have these rules, and they have this trauma, and it was coming out. So when they were asked, why are you acting that way? Why are you acting that way? The girls had no idea. The girls weren't able to say, I'm traumatized, or even know that they were traumatized. So blame it on the witches, right? And who were the witches? Who were the people victimized? The people that they'd heard their parents talk bad about, that they had personal vendettas against, their parents had personal vendettas against, okay? So if you look at it, what is the witch hunt of 2020? It is traumatized youth acting out and releasing emotions in the only way they know possible. It is the youth doing adult bidding, taking down targets for the more elite members and powerful members of society without even realizing that they're doing that. So think about that. That's the core of what the witch hunt what happened is. Also, what happened is it wasn't believed at that time that if you could successfully say the Lord's Prayer, that you could be a witch, right? About the third person, I think, that was executed that day, the man began saying the Lord's Prayer, and the crowd was, oh, how could it be? How could it be? A lot of the crowd said, make it stop, make it stop. You can't do this to him. You know what I mean? They questioned their absolute conviction, and their accusations against that person. And then in a minute, they were shown proof. But those in charge didn't stop. They continued to execute, because the man that they really wanted to get, that they made wait towards the end, that we know the most throughout history, he was last and they had to get to him. Okay. So if you look at it now, you can see, oh, the neighbor whose land the father spoke ill about, the daughter accused this woman. You know what I mean? If you go back to it. So I see this throughout cancel culture, and I want to talk about the righteous versus self-righteous energy of Mars and Aries, and to really think before you point fingers. And like I said before, it's a hard time to trust anyone. We're all being deceived or deceiving ourselves to some level. So with this is going to be a theme that's just going to pick up over the next few weeks. The youth rebellion is with us all this summer. I've seen this in the cancel culture in some ways where it's really wonderful because it's sad because it's like people have found out Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny isn't real. It's really a kill your idols kind of vibe. This is happening in the sports world, entertainment world, media. This is happening in beauty culture. Every like subgroup, subreddit is dealing with something like this. And we all know, we all have a dialogue now about cancel culture. So for you personally, keep the witch hunt vibes in mind and maybe see how it's playing out with people that you know or you interact with. I think there's something there, but when you look at just the basics of what was it, it was traumatized youth acting out and releasing emotions in the only way they knew possible at that time, given the circumstances of their life. So that is something I wanted to bring up here. Yep, that goes into that. We'll go into that later. Got it. We're going through here. So now we're going to get to, that's pretty much the summary of where we've been. Now I want to bring you all a little bit of good news for a minute. Let's switch over to some good news. July highlights. July is actually the best month for money in 2020. So that's something really wonderful. Cheers to that. And here's what's cool. You're like, oh, Holly, why didn't you tell us that at the beginning of the month? No, we're right on time because the best days for material success are July 20th to July 31st. So we're right on time. So it'll begin on Monday. This is being recorded on Saturday. On Monday, that's when you can start making some money stuff happen. The other wonderful thing about July is it's like we got the return of the divine feminine energy. What? So Cancer season brings that in, that's part of it and everything. But we also have the reappearance of some stars that are so beneficial to us. So Betelgeuse is reappearing July 25th. And then July 22nd, we have the moon in Leo, and we have the reappearance of the female warrior star. So this is really like a time with these stars coming back and everything like that. I mean, get ready to see the ladies like step up and lead. Okay. Hopefully all the ladies that step up and lead will be worthy leaders, worthy of us listening to and taking the advice of. But July 22nd is really a power day for feminine leadership energy, and then when we go into, so that's like July 22nd. And then the following day, Leo season, July 23rd, Leo season begins and the sun moves into Leo and the sun rules Leo at home. Leo is really about putting the shine on yourself, putting the shine on others. So as we went through all these dark nights of the soul during the retrograde and Cancer season, this Leo energy will coming in and everything like that, along with the divine feminine energy, will just help us see the world more optimistically and hopefully more playful, in a more playful manner and everything like that. So the end of the month is really when it gets good. The beginning, when you weren't hearing much from me, you were just going through the old bullshit, like I pointed out. And so was I. So I don't feel with the Mercury retrograde, as I said, it goes to the 26th, and Mars and Aries, it's like people are in a hurry and they have no idea where they're going. I do not think that this is a good month for travel. If it's necessary travel, a short, purposeful trip, it is more, beneficial, but only travel at this time out of necessity just for the month of July. At the end of July too, like July 26th, as I was saying, Mercury will be fully out of the shadows. So all of those, glitches that come with that will lessen, be really good. That's some really good news I'm just so happy that there's a month where I can share some good news and say, hey, it's still to come. Guess what? It's right around the corner. But what I want to get back to is on Monday, as all of this changes and all this energy comes in, we also have a new moon. And this new moon is a little bit different. I mean, each moon and each lunar cycle has its own unique values and everything like that. But this one has a twist to it, okay? So as I was saying, like with the moon in Cancer, that's water energy. So think about like what's below the surface, right? So if we could just, nerd out on for just a second here. So this is a new moon in Cancer at 28 degrees. And 28 degrees is the degree of Cancer. This is a new moon on Monday. Monday, moon day. And the moon rules Cancer, so the moon's at home. Very cozy. Okay. All of those are really good. Will it feel good to us? I'm not so sure. So we're looking at what's the calm beneath the surface, and we've got Mars and Aries, which is this rash, impatient, disruptive energy and everything like that. So if we're looking at beneath the surface, you're challenged with Mars and Aries, which is like these rough waves, these choppy Atlantic waves, angry waves almost. And then with Saturn and Capricorn, it's like restriction, it's like the beach is closed that day. And it's also like riptides, reality, and so forth. So water energy is not like calm floating, on a little unicorn floating in a pool. Water energy has a lot. So how that water energy is going to affect you, it depends. Now, even though I said this is a general reading, and that means it's all 12 signs, I can tell you that this is more difficult for cardinal signs. And it depends, like, how are you going to deal with water energy already? For me, the water moons are just in a normal day are harder for me. I have fire, earth going on. And so that water energy is uncomfortable waters for me. Not a fan of those moons. I don't feel totally like myself. And when we've already been having to confront so much and everything like that during this time, it's just that extra layer, that extra emotional weight. So it's difficult. So for this one, Monday, this is not a day for important events. Tuesday would be a great day for a woman to take the lead, take charge in her life, like launch a new initiative, that kind of thing, or use that female divine creative energy coming in to create art and beauty and so forth. But Monday isn't a day for important events. And what we have going on here is we have an opposition to Cancer and opposition to Saturn and Uranus, and this is just the restrictions on people. So it's not going to feel like this. It's a new day. It's a new beginning. It's a new moon. There's going to be some restriction to this one, okay? So you can manifest. New moons are great for manifesting, planting new seeds and everything like this. But this moon, because of its placement with that Saturn and Capricorn, it's not a moon for short-term planning and short-term manifestation. This is a good new moon if you want to start a family, if you want a new child, to bring a new child into your family. It's good for that. It's good new moon if you want to manifest something that's really long-term. It's a sustained endeavor. It's like your 10-year plan, because Saturn and Capricorn builds, and it builds to last, okay? So this isn't the short time like, oh, in the next month I want to do this. No, it's long game. It's a long game moon. That can work out great if that's what you want. But if you're trying to do shorter term manifestations, understand that energy isn't as much in abundance for you at this time. So with this new moon, it's really important that as you go through this whole next lunar cycle, you nurture yourself whenever possible, and you understand that you need to rest more. So don't try to go full force. Don't try to push out there. Give yourself time to truly take care of yourself, and also look at how you can nurture others and be more nurturing and support the children and get in touch with your own, divine feminine energy. There is, within that, I'm speaking to all genders, of course. There is both feminine and masculine energy, the yin and the yang, and all genders should be utilizing both energy when it comes to what they're experiencing. That's what we feel. The Mars in Aries is highly masculine energy. The new moon in Cancer is more feminine, nurturing energy. Those two together happening at the same time, you have to figure out a way to merge those. So with Mars and Aries, you could be that pioneer. You could create that launch, on Tuesday and so forth, and make those two work. You could work with that Saturn Capricorn masculine energy and check it with the Cancer to make something that lasts, to build a home that lasts, work and home, combine those two. So it's a bit different like that. And what we have with this one, it will be harder for the cardinal signs. And with this one, and with all lunar energy, I really always tell people to like ride the wave. And so understand that if something comes up, you might be in that choppy, angry Atlantic wave that is Mars and Aries, Understand that if the beach is closed, that's the Saturn and Capricorn, 2020 is definitely teaching us to be flexible. But with this, ride the wave, read the wave, know what it is, which one is it? And then surrender to the wave and know that even if that wave sucks, it's going to pass. That it's so true with all the moon and the lunar energy. That's why if you're having a really bad day and you want to give up, just sleep on it. Let that moon cycle just pass away, okay? So it's the same one. This isn't a normal new moon, though, but there is beauty there that we can tap into. Saturn came back strong again on July 16th, and this is part of that Jupiter Pluto conjunction where we're seeing restrictions, false restarts, reopening. We're also seeing a lot of, we're confronting more of the broken systems, the corrupt people. So I want you all to know that on July 20th, both luminaries are in exact position to Saturn at that time. So we've got the sun conjunct the moon at that exact Saturn position. So July 20th is really a day to lay low on this new moon. It's really not about new beginnings as much as it's about just maintaining through it and playing that long game, okay? Between July 16th and 25th, because of the Saturn energy and because Saturn is like making 2020 the crazy shit show metal year that it is, I mean, that's really part of this. It's going to be a bit of a crazy, hectic time until about the 25th. So the next, let's see. Yeah, this is where I don't really have great news. So it's going to be really hectic through the 25th, but just understand through this next lunar cycle, the Saturn energy is going to be strong. So we are going to be dealing with out of control elites, out of control authorities, broken systems, corrupt people, restrictions, and so forth. We're going to have that going through this lunar cycle, or at least the attempts of this. That's the difficult energy, I would say, at this time. Just still feeling that restriction. So, but it's a wonderful day just to have a new moon because it ties in so well to that eclipse energy. And it also has all these things like being in the Cancer degree, Cancer being at home, being on a Monday and so forth. So there's a lot there, but you have to go back and think about where you're at in the story. What story's been playing out with you since, the beginning of June to mid-June to like 4th of July weekend, to now? Like what are the big things you're dealing with? How are you playing out? And that's going to give a better idea of where this moon is at. The other thing that we're dealing with as we have all these challenges, we have a little break because, the beginning of the month's like no news, good news. It's the same thing as I was mentioning. But this new moon, this new cycle, it is, again, restriction energy. It suggests highly that so many people are going to be contemplating this work-home balance, and where things are going and the children in their life, and their situation, and how they're nurturing and caring for themselves. But one thing that is also coming into play right now that some people might be picking up on the energy, so I really want to cover this, is Chiron is like an asteroid between Saturn and Uranus, and it's almost called like this bridge, Uranus is this really electrical, energetic, futuristic, disruptive field, and Saturn is this very, time, reality, structure, system. and Chiron is the bridge in between. So Chiron and Aries this year is, I feel, something that in some ways it can help fuel the pandemic, but in other ways Chiron and Aries essentially is about personal and individualized health. This is playing out in a way where a lot of people aren't able to get into their healthcare appointments as much as they should. But it's also the fact that each individual at this time is forced to make so many questions based on how safe they personally feel and to confront their fears around their personal safety. Um, with Chiron and Aries, to me, it suggests a lot of innovation in health, individualized health, where we're not, all just cattle herded throughout, to realize that we each have unique needs and backgrounds and situations and DNA. So that's something that's coming up. So this Chiron, we have the Chiron retrograde, and what that's really doing is it's part of that theme. If you go back to my video where I talk about the outer planets and their whole adapt or die motto. So Chiron and Aries, if we could just real get to the heart of like what a lot of people are experiencing. Maybe you're going through this and you didn't quite put a finger on it. Maybe this will help you. We'll see. Chiron and Aries right now is asking us to reconsider what's the purpose of our wounds. Think about that. I think we're also being asked at this time in this retrograde to ask, why do we avoid our wounds so much? Is it better to confront the wound, examine it, forgive as needed to heal and move on? Or do we just ignore that wound and let it trigger and let our suffering spill out onto others and let our suffering, and our wounding stop us from expressing ourselves? How are our wounds silencing us? Because Chiron was the wounded healer, and there's something about that where, although Chiron was able to teach the greats and add the greatest teachers, that force behind the scenes, all of his students, you hear their names, all the great healers. But Chiron was unable to heal his own wound, okay? So you can give advice all day. You can tell people how to fix their problems and everything, but are you just projecting? Are you avoiding fixing your own problems, confronting your own wound? And if you are traumatized, so many of us are like, can we really judge those little girls in the witch hunt trials for PTSD when so many people in the United States have PTSD or complex childhood, PTSD, it's prevalent. We are traumatized. Look at what we've been through in 2020. Isolation is psychological torture. We've been isolated. We've been traumatized. We are a traumatized nation at this time. And Chiron is asking us to look at our wound. Neptune and Pisces is asking us to look at the, behind the illusion of it all. It's such a challenging time. Nurture yourself. Give yourself a break, because this is something that we are going through. So the other thing is that with this retrograde season, with this Chiron retrograde, reconsider your wound and reconsider your viewpoint and your belief of you based on that wound. Figure out how you can go from victim to survivor. And that's something we're being challenged with now. This is all really heavy, like a lot of shadow work stuff, a lot of retrospect, a lot of introspection. It's things that we're going through our heads right now that we might not be able to get out. I don't think we're quite finding our words for it. And maybe as we go through the end of the summer and this end of this retrograde season, we can have a bigger collective conversation about this. I don't feel like people are talking about what they're really concerned about right now. We're all deceiving others on some level. We're all contributing to fake news. We are our own fake news because we are dealing with a lot of wounds. We're dealing with a lot of trauma at this time. We're dealing with so many cosmic challenges in this story, but none of this is really a surprise. This is all how it's written, and take peace with that and know that this too shall pass. But these are what we are being challenged with. So far, what I've given you is what the stars say. And this is looking at the celestials, the luminaries. I brought in some stars, I brought in some asteroids and everything. We have the Neowise Comet, and that Neowise Comet is again related back to sheltering and protecting the children and defending the children. That's a strong energy we're coming. These are what these stars are saying, okay? But what the stars say offers intuitive astrology, and that is not alone in doing this. There's many astrologers that do that, and what happens is that it's just really a connection with guides, and by guides I mean ancestors and guides from the light. So my guides actually had a lot of messages to give today. That's part of the reason why this is delayed, and it's absolutely the right time, because I don't think I could have created such a nice ending as well. So what happened was, the first message I really received, a lot of times it's more like of a visual, and it was of this quote I have. It's one of my favorite quotes. It makes my motto of life. So they started with a reference I would know, and it's a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it's easy. Be silly, be honest, be kind. And the message was, don't forget to play. Summer is supposed to be about fun. You're going through all these murky waters, all these wild waves and everything like that. Be silly. Be silly. Get in touch with your childlike nature. We've got Mars and Chiron going on in Aries and everything like that. That is your inner child. Take action for your inner child and have some fun this summer. You can do it safely, at your own level. You can determine your own level of fun and everything like that. But be silly. Have some fun, okay? With the part about be honest and be kind, this part I'm just going to read off, because this was a pretty direct message. Excuse me. Karma is more important than ever. Its energy is accelerated. Live in your true beliefs and values, and you will be rewarded. The challenge is to avoid extremes, absolutes, others' agendas, and instead of focusing on what you want to destroy, focus on what you value and what you want to preserve. Instead of focusing on fear, own your fear. Acknowledge it, forgive it, and reclaim your personal power. 2020 is a reset. You are resetting. You are safe. You can transform yourself and the world around you. So what was fun was that message came after I prepared all my notes, and I just caught the last line. You can transform yourself and the world around you. Even though Jupiter conjunct Pluto played out in some really crazy ways on a external level, the internal message of that, which is April, June 30th, November 14th, is playing out all year. That is the fact that 2020 offers us an amazing ability to transform ourselves and the world around you. I think the message of focusing on what you want to destroy, not what you want to destroy, what you hate, what you're against, and everything like that, but what you want to preserve and what you value is the key. The big message there was really like positive forward motion. And I think own your fear relates to the insight from the stars, in Chiron right now. So that was a really strong message. Through this all, you're wading through those emotional waters right now. But this next week, this moon's going to be kind of hard, but you'll have to know what's your story of the eclipse season, what's playing out for you, what's been happening there. But as we go into this new week and this new moon, it really kicks off with this this different focus, I mean, maybe Mars and Aries is going to go off and fight the patriarchy, but so many of us are being asked to look at our heart, to look at our home, to look at our wounds. You know what I mean? Um, and then when that sun, we go into Leo season and everything like that, and we have that moon aspect with it and everything. To me, that is wonderful, and that fits into the be silly part, because when the moon is in Leo, please, and the sun goes in, or in Leo season, get ready. Just think about some fun you want to have this summer that you can still have. Think about some ways you can just be silly and you can laugh. I mean, no matter what the situation, you could still, if you're feeling, cooped up with things, you could still go out. So you could even go out and play in the rain. I kind of got cabin fever one day, and I just put on all my rain gear and went out and splashed in the puddles outside. It helped. It really helped. So, but know that a lot of us are dealing with the wounds at this time. But if you can just find that positivity and hope, and I do believe that the Leo season will help bring it back in. It's like, we're coming out of that dark tunnel. So if anybody in the live stream has any questions, I'll answer them real quick. But if not, that's really all the astrology and intuitive astrology I have at this time. Hopefully you guys like the good news. So there we go. Chat something really quick. I feel like I say, oh, if you have any questions, let me know. And I think everybody has the same question. And that's always, what the hell is going on? So, and I can definitely understand that at this time. So, yeah, the new moon will be more frustrating for cardinal signs. And those signs are Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and Aries. And we're good. Yeah, I think that's all I really want to say there. Okay, we're good. Thank you so much for your time, for joining. I hope these words resonated with you and brought you some comfort, and that you can better surf the waves of this time. Be sure to follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's more daily posts there. And as I mentioned before, you can easily subscribe to the blog at whatthestars.com. You just get emails when there's new content. It's really simple. Also, feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Moving forward, it's way more likely I'm going to do YouTube Live than Facebook Live. I can cross promote easier with YouTube. So hit subscribe and like. And thank you so much. Oh, hi. Canada in the house. How wonderful. Cheers. That is great. Thank you so much for joining me. I do have some upcoming news. I'm not going to announce too much right now, but I've been getting some feedback on specific classes. A lot of people say, do you teach classes? I love to teach classes. I was doing them in person. And what I would like to do is I'd like to continue to do in-person classes. That would probably be after the autumn equinox, but I want to look at before then us doing a class that really combines you learning about your own personal astrology while also learning a bit of like astrology 101. I have been so blessed with a very curious audience that really wants to know more, not just about themselves, but about the ancient tradition of astrology. So I like teaching on an introductory level because I hope in what I do there is I pay it forward and I go back and think, what would have made this like way easier for me to learn like 25 years ago and do it like that? So I hope to offer a class that will help you get insight about yourself and about astrology. And then I intend to offer an in-person class in the fall because I love doing that. That is definitely a goal. I hope to have all my client sessions caught up in this upcoming week, and then to be offering new services and improve the service page just to make it easier to book. I think it's a little bit vague right now, so I'd like to make that easier to people. But if you have any ideas or suggestions for specific services or classes, I love hearing the feedback because it's all about, really giving the people what they need and the information that they need and the kind of classes or the talks that they want to give, they want to hear and everything like that. So thank you for your time and your attention and your curiosity. And if you want to share some feedback, I would love that. And I hope you take the rest of July and you just really, take care of that heart chakra and put some love out there and find ways that, you can speak up for children, that you can address your own wound and face that fear behind it and just own that fear. And if you don't know what you want for the long term, you don't have to have all the pieces together. You could still use the new moon to think about, the values, the basics, the parameters of stuff. And a lot of times that's even better because you allow the universe to fill in the blanks and it works out even better than you could have imagined or expected. So enjoy the new moon, enjoy our move from Cancer season into Leo season, and happy birthday, Leos. I hope everybody has a heartfelt month.